I just wanted to answer your question a little bit. And I can't say that I'm an expert in this, but I do believe that the reason that they do their business down there is precisely what Rose was saying. Everybody's down there. So I think it's really important. What Diane is doing is bringing people up and introducing them to our rich culture. And I think it's really important for all of us to, for instance, now it just occurred to me, I should have my friends that are producers come and tour here. Because it would be, as she's a mother of 4, it would be so much more convenient for her to shoot here than to shoot there.
But I have a question. Don't we have some incredibly powerful, esteemed artists, actors living up here?
Yes, we do.
I mean, you can name all of them, and writers and directors.
Yes.
I mean, we can reel them off. I'm just wondering if any one of them finds the value of living near their home, being near their home, and if one could just get them together to decide maybe we can make something happen up here. There's power in those numbers, in those talented people. If we could just get them together. Yes.
Well, I'd like to make one more comment. Thank you for speaking to this question. One thing I noticed in listening overall is a common theme of San Francisco being a pioneer street. The historical background is fascinating. First to do it, the way technology came in. I mean, it's the birthplace, clearly. And then it's also sort of like butted up against this piece where we don't want to be out there. So the gap between those two places is where I was stuck.
And I agree with you.
And what we're speaking to Diane is the leadership. It's like, how do you reinvent it so it's not some version of LA?
But they got away from LA. They moved here because they wanted out.
How do you give them what they want? How do you go to
By we have to find a way to address their needs to be private, to be an individual, to be on their own living, creating in their community, but also to have them be protected, that they can be safely producing and creating up here. And without all that business nonsense in LA. I wrote a letter years ago to Rupert Murdoch. They called me a month later and said, "What do you want?" Elizabeth Gabler, I remember vividly, sitting in my little dining room. "What do you want?" I said, "Nothing." I didn't write the letter because, do you want a script? Do you want to come in and talk about a project? I said, "No." I wrote a letter that ended up with the people that are involved in making movies. There's a supervisor attached to this project, another producer, another supervisor. It got down the list, and the reader, I put in caps. I said, "It seems to me that the readers are the people making decisions on what movies you should make in Hollywood." And I remember being under contract to Fox for 5 years in the 60s, early, and all I did was walk into the president's office, the head of the studio, whoever he was, Spiro Skouras, and I sat in a chair and I waited to see the man. And I got to sit and talk to him. There's no sense of humanity. They are there and they're running newspapers, buying buildings, buying property overseas. Do you think Jeffrey Immelt has he owns more outside of this country than in this country? A studio means nothing to him. It's a little peanut. He's selling it, so it goes to it doesn't matter in the scheme of things. It's big business buying and selling, making the best deal for stock. We don't need that up here. Why do you need that up here? Why can't you make have an investment, make a little bit, and be happy to see quality go into the marketplace, to see a return, maybe good and maybe a little more. Back to the old days. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that you've hit on something with distribution that would answer a lot of your questions here, is that you have in San Francisco a brain drain of talented, creative, innovative thinkers to Los Angeles and New York. And the reason is that there is, as difficult as it is to produce a film at any scale, you want to, once you've done your first production and you know how hard it is, you want to mitigate that risk, because any number of things can grenade your project. And LA has a structure for you to produce your films to do that with the minimal risk. The key seems to be now with the democratization of technology where we can make the films, it truly is distribution, which could be the key. If you can make a small personal film that you believe in this community, and it turns some kind of profit that's not on the scale of Paramount or Sony, but you've made your return on your film and you've made it as a kind of a fledgling filmmaker, you're going to be inclined to stay in this community. And when people see the quality of the stuff we as a community are turning out, then the studios are going to come to us because they see that's where the brains are. And instead of us sucking down to LA.
I agree with you. I agree. I think there's one example. Curran Engel, who teaches at our school, he's the head of producing. His brother made a film that was nominated for a documentary, a feature-length documentary 2 years ago. The man has been on the road for an entire year and a half with Oscilloscope, a small independent distribution company. I get emails every month where he's going to be around the world. He is traveling with this film called The Garden, made in Los Angeles about human beings in the garden down in downtown. The point I'm making is this small little distribution company got him all over the world with this little film. Now, they exist. Oscilloscope, just remember the name. There are these small companies out there doing just what you're talking about. Will certainly have made its return. I mean, it's in Whole Foods. You can buy the DVD with a nice little picture of the garden. I mean, it's amazing what we can do, but need to do a little bit of research. Yes, sir.
It seems to me that there's a bit of a mindset that this whole discussion is built around, until just now, around bringing Hollywood here, or being like Hollywood except for the bagpipes, being big business. The one thing, there's a couple of business models that I think might be instructive, and that is, as was sort of alluded, the changing recording industry, music industry model, where it's become democratized, where you can now become, you can be a small, musician and make a good living without being a rock star. And you've got, the Silicon Valley model, which is not about big companies blessing the masses here with their jobs, but rather the independence of indie films coming up from the bottom and creating things. So, I mean, to me, Silicon Valley and the music industry may be instructive more than Hollywood by far.
Sounds great.
San Francisco model.
Sounds great.
We agree with it.
Yeah, no, I think what could be more exciting than have it ground up from here?
But Debbie knows how hard it is to find funds to make even a documentary. Where do we get that money?
Just one more point on that is, I happen to know this gentleman.
I know it too.
And we happen to know that there's plenty of supply, at least in the intellectual property, if not in the actual pipeline, of good ideas and independent films. The problem clearly is distribution. And if the distribution model can be brought to the masses, if you will, somebody would step forward and organize a distribution that's a little bit non-traditional, then I think there's a lot of people who would fill that distribution to be able to make, maybe starting with a modest living and moving up the food chain into a good one.
Is there anybody here who hears what he's saying and has a thought about how to begin something in that area? Who's in that area? Yes.
Well, I'll just say this about small-time filmmakers, which I am. That I've heard a lot of anxiety from my fellow filmmakers that they want to release to the right film festival, that there's some kind of like competition between film festivals about if you don't show it at the right one, then you're not going to be picked up and you're ostracized with the dull ostracizer, all that kind of stuff. It's a level of anxiety that seems a little bit weird. I don't understand why people have that much trouble putting their films out there. I wish they would. But my point being is that there's clearly that's the one piece that nobody knows what to do, in my experience.
Well, there definitely is a psychology to film festivals. I'll give you that. I mean, what I did was I'm just about to finish a film called Neon Sky, and it's about a traveling carnival, and it's a drama, and it's really amazing little movie made for very little money. And I hired a consultant in New York to look at it and tell me which festivals do I put this movie in. And and it's been really educational for me. What he's and just in that I picked a lot of the festivals that he picked, but it was just sort of a reinforcement of what I thought. And I think that if I think that there's a whole psychology to the festivals that often lead to the distribution, and that's a sidebar, and I'll talk to you about it later. But the point of the matter is it's just another layer of research that you have to do, in addition to the distribution end of it. So the distribution problem is something that, because it all sort of blew up, and there's no one thing that's screaming out, look how successful I am, makes it difficult. I mean, like I said before, because the real secret to the whole thing is to be able to get money, and then get enough money so that you can not only make your film, but advertise your film, you see. And if you're going to go to the problem of advertising your film, you're going to find a distributor who's likely to want to work with you because you're paying for the P&A. And if you understand what I'm talking about. So there's like I said, there's a lot of different avenues, and no one thing has risen above the rest of it, saying, this is the way to go. So that really is the problem, and it starts with money.
To give you a plug for the next year's expo, which you're all here to support and make happen,